Hi everyone, Chris here. Just letting you know that this interview with Don, while it's absolutely fantastic, there's a couple of little audio glitches at the start and through the first half of it where, cursed NBN and fibre to the node is not a thing, it's all copper. So unfortunately there's a few little dropouts there, but about halfway through the episode we do swap over to phone. It's a really good episode. Stick with it. Hope you enjoy it.
My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast. We're back.
We have our voices, kind of.
I've got all of mine. You've got most of yours.
Yes, 65% functional.
Working beautifully. And,
Yes.
and speaking of working beautifully, you had to get your voice back.
Oh, of course I did, because we have to work beautifully with the most beautiful worker in the baking shed.
Don, how are we going, Don?
Hi, guys. I'm glad you're sort of sounding okay. Well, at least not Tim Khan's okay, but no.
I mean, it's a level. That's a definite level. It's absolutely fantastic to get to talk to you. We've been very keen to get you on the podcast, and there's been so many requests.
Yes.
Oh, look, thanks for having me. Look, I've been hanging out, especially since that first remark about Shrek poo on my first cake. I've been waiting for payback.
We have this feeling that we're going to be grilled on all our commentary.
It started with Shrek poo.
Oh, yeah. How many times have I heard Don's party, our Don Bradman, ready to get those aprons? You're going to be in big trouble. Oh,
I mean,
I'm sorry. There was a lag there. I thought you hung up on me already.
no, we haven't hung up on you. It's all good. But
Just like,
what I really loved, by the way, was, think about this. You're one of the few bakers we've given a theme to.
A theme.
I mean, you've got your own theme, which is the Our Don's Aprons.
yes.
Don's Aprons. And I ask you, is he very good? Yes, he is. See, so you've got a theme.
Yeah. And it's,
Well, I let me tell you, I listen to the podcasts early in the morning because I set my alarm, have a cup of tea, go back to bed and listen to it before I go to work.
oh my
And there was
God.
one morning.
We're in
Well,
bed with Don.
Sorry?
We're in bed with Don.
And I tell you what, I was laughing so hard one morning, I'm sure the neighbour was banging on the wall telling me to shut up.
That's what we need.
There's the ego boost. We're in bed with Don and he's laughing at us. So,
It's not the first time I've been in bed with someone. Don, where the neighbours told me to shut up.
Yeah. Wah.
Someone should be keelhauled for that one. So let's get it out right away. Let's get there. Let's start with it. The Shrek poo.
Well, yeah. Look, I'm glad they didn't show all of it because Maggie actually rolled it around her fingers and told me that it looked like Play-Doh. Well, I'd never actually made marzipan before then. I sort of winged it and thought, look, how hard can it be? It's only just grinding up a couple of bits of stuff. Well, it sort of came out not exactly how I'd planned. I didn't always put thought into what I was baking.
It's interesting though, because like we talk about like the shed being a place of experimentation, and I mean we'll come back to it obviously a bit later on as well. But like you haven't made marzipan, you get in there and you go, it's a good time to try marzipan, and then of course later on, like the grand final, anybody, you then inspire Sunny. And
oh yes,
and she's like, I've never done this, but I watched Don do it last week, and I'm like, why not?
Well, hello, experimenting in the shed and you've got two scientists. Like, what was they thinking? Seriously.
Exactly. But I mean, look, you're
Live.
the Shrek. I mean, the Shrek poo actually endeared you to us.
Yes.
Because we like people that have a go and do something that looks good and looks different and is not like the same thing you've seen all the time. The worst elimination I think we've ever seen in any form of Bakeoff was in British Bakeoff about 4 seasons ago.
Yep.
And it was a vicar that couldn't bake a sponge.
Oh, I know. I remember.
Yes.
I remember.
And we still, to this day, it is the worst elimination ever, because how do you go on to Bakeoff and you get a sponge?
Can't cook a sponge.
And you can't cook a sponge. So, like, that would be
where...
going
like, you don't deserve to be here.
Yeah, if you see those people, you go, well, okay, I understand why we're going to mock that. But when we see people take a chance, it's like, good, you're supposed to be there because you're actually doing something.
Exactly. And I was thinking exactly the same thing when I was watching the Great American Baking Show the other day. And how could half of these people not bake a cob, Kristie?
Yes. But American Baking Show have done cob.
What?
Yeah, I know. I had to actually get that in because I thought maybe Kristie's missed it, that she hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't keen on American the Great American Baking Show because I heard there's a cash prize and it's very American, and I just don't know if I can. I'm all about the purity of the baking show.
She's here for the baking.
Yeah, but it's a cob, Kristie. Come on.
I know. It's kind of like
get with the program.
Yeah, but you're asking me to lower my moral value.
But it's for cob. I do know you will.
And I will, kill my grandmother for a cob.
Yeah, okay. So that must be really low to actually have to watch it then if they're getting a cash prize.
And that's sort of been the thing. And I mean, we said we're free ranging. We go all over the place. So let's go all over the place because
loose and easy,
like Australian and Canadian, which are our two favourite versions of the show. Yes, I include British in that.
Yes, I know.
Well, there's British Columbia. That's close, isn't it?
I think Canadian. I've always said this. I think Canadian and Australian are better than the British version. That's just me. But it's been interesting to actually watch sort of you guys also connect with a bunch of those Canadian bakers as well.
Yeah, I'm friends with a lot of them, and they're so lovely. And I've been to Canada once, and I don't know, it's just something about the people that they're just so warm and they're so friendly, and you can actually tell that by actually watching the show itself, because I can relate to what you're looking at as to the two shows being similar, because we all get on so well, and oh God, no, I can't say that. The Americans would kill me. I was going to say that the accent to me is a little bit softer than the American accent.
It is. It really is. But it's true. And I think the ethos of both shows is really, really similar. And I mean,
they're taking that whole, love the bakers, love the bakes.
Yeah, Nicole's ethos with love the bakers, love the bakes, and that ethos I think comes through in Canadian as well as in Australian. So it's not a surprise to us that you guys have sort of started to get along a bit, because it just makes...
And we take full responsibility for that.
100%.
Oh, yes, of course. I wouldn't have started watching the Canadian show, except... Sorry, I was going to say, because of you guys.
It's been... And as I said,
yes, it's a bit of lag.
A bit of lag, and
we'll blame the fires.
Yeah.
Just, raging bushfires between us.
Blame the bushfires.
Well, yes, blame the fires and the rain.
100%. Fire, rain, every weather condition. Welcome to Australia. Yeah. So it's been, they've got very similar ethos, but one of the things...
Everything.
Yeah. So what we liked, one of the things we liked initially about you as well, obviously, was, look, the aprons are there. Let's talk the aprons. So...
You make your own.
You make your own aprons.
Which I thought was odd, because not odd that you make your own, but when I saw them, I thought they were like one of those gifts that they were from like a fancy gift store, and someone had bought like fancy aprons, but you're making them.
Actually, from my recollection, I don't think it said fancy store. I have a feeling it said sort of like a cigarette shop or something.
Probably.
Is my memory correct?
I'm backpedaling here, Don. Just rewriting the history. I'm like the Liberal government.
I thought, oh my God, I wish I had have actually got Christmas presents like that when I was growing up.
Yes.
Yeah. I for my 17th birthday, I got a shaver. Like, I would prefer to get an apron with a combi on it.
Oh, look, Don, I see your shaver and I raise you a ridiculous 21st present. No, I think 18th, one of the two. No, I think the 21st, that my mum got made for me, which is this picture of me as a fucking baby in a pink dress, all fancied up, properly framed. It was like a 3D framed. And she had this glass blower this really horrible key. Like, I only knew it was a key because it was labelled under it saying key. And it's like, happy 21st birthday, Kristie. I'm like, why do I want a picture of myself as a baby for my 21st? It made no fucking sense. She spent so much money on that. And I'm like, that's a lot of booze that could have gone into like my face.
Well, I use this podcast to learn more about you every day.
Did you put the photo of you in the paper, though, on your 21st birthday?
Oh.
The paper a couple of times, and every time I was in my Girl Guide uniform.
Once was last week, which makes it worse. Anyway.
Page 3.
Talk about mental pictures. Jeez.
Check out those patches.
Nice.
I'm trying to keep myself nice here because I could have made a hell of a comment there.
But the aprons, what we liked was the evolution of the aprons across the weeks. They just got more and more awesome as the weeks gone on. So if the first one like took us by surprise and was like, don't quite know what that's supposed to be, by week 3 it was like, not only am I here for it, but I want all of them.
Yeah,
I want all of it. Can I tell you a very funny story? And the thing is that I don't think I'm under contract anymore, so I can probably say this. But and it's not a bad thing. It was just my introduction to the shed, my very first bake, which was a Shrek Poo bake. And they actually cut this bit out. But Maggie came over to me, and I don't know whether you remember as well, but I had the macaron shirt on as well with the combi apron. Because, they like us to be ourselves, and I thought, well, I love that macaron shirt, but I also love the combi apron. God, it looks like somebody threw up because there's colours everywhere. But Maggie comes over and she said, oh my God, I love that shirt, and that's so me because of the cakes. And Matt comes over and he says, oh my God, I love that apron because I'm into cars. And he said, we could have been brothers. And I said, well, that's me, cars and cakes. And Maggie said, yeah, but Don's got hair. You'll probably never forgive me for saying that on a podcast, but
to be fair,
that was my introduction to the shed, and I thought, oh my God!
To be fair, Matt's not exactly hiding the fact.
No.
No. But that was me because that was one of my favourite shirts. That was my good luck shirt. I actually wore that to my audition day. And, that apron, you wouldn't believe how many people have emailed me and said, where can I get one of those? And I thought, well, unless I make it for you, you're not going to be able to.
Yeah. So when are you releasing your apron range, Don?
Well, actually, I am setting up a website over my Christmas break. This is one of my Christmas jobs. That I am going to start making them and selling them along with my bow ties.
Oh, nice.
It was too bloody hot to wear bow ties in the shed, though. So.
I wouldn't have bothered with the bow tie in the shed. That would have been.
Unless it was like a scrunchy form and you could pull it up over your head to be like a sweatband as well.
Well, the thing is that if I had worn a normal tie, I would have probably dribbled it in the creme pat.
I think by the end of the technical, you'd have it wrapped around your head like Rambo. You're like a bit of Bruce.
Mind you, like if I had have done that, they would have said I was copying Henry.
Yeah. Or
he was copying me.
Well, Robert did that as well. Robert had the headbands at one point.
Oh, I know, the Ginger Ninja.
Yeah, the Ginger Ninja. He had his sweatbands on. He'll be squealing at home right now. Hey, Robert. Hey,
Don knows.
Oh my God, Don said a thing. I don't know why I made Robert so high pitched then. Don't know.
Because that's how he'll be.
It will be how he's sounding. So, I need to talk now about a week that like you is close to my heart as well. I refer, of course, to Vegan Week. So.
Oh shit.
You, like me, have a similar view on Vegan Week. And I know there's somebody else, and I'm not going to spoil it for the audience yet, but there's someone else that when we get them on, I think is going to have a similar level of conversation about
but if
vegan.
my memory serves me correctly, on the montage where you're all walking in, you made a few comments about meat. Is that correct, Don?
Yes.
Oh, well, that was that after the bit where the producer said to me, "So give us your tips on Vegan Week," and I said, "Yeah, just don't bake it."
Yes, which is of course the right answer.
Well, I can tell you a very, very funny story about Vegan Week, which didn't really show up on the episode because, as Nick said, like they get 120 minutes or so of 120 hours of filming. Well, I had a couple of really bad weeks. This particular one, I sort of didn't convey my food list or my ingredients list as clearly as I should have.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I basically ended up with a couple of ingredients, which is not exactly what I was wanting. And so, I thought I had a really good start because, I sort of had this plan that I put everything out. So, I didn't forget any of the ingredients. And as I'd put them in the mixture, I would put them away. So if I had anything left on the bench, then I knew that I'd forgotten to put something in. And anyway, so, 20 minutes in and I'm going really well. And all of a sudden my batter goes to like concrete. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like how could this happen? I wrote the recipe. This didn't happen before. And what I had done is I hadn't sort of really said that I wanted the coconut milk that I had in my mind, because there's coconut milk that you can get in the dairy case.
Yep.
And there's coconut milk that you can get in the tin, which is for, like high curries.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't really specify what I wanted.
Oh, no.
And so, like, and look, Nick and David were great. They said, look, we'll give you some extra time because, it's not really your fault.
Yeah.
Well, which was fine, but except for my head was in the wrong bloody headspace by then because, I thought I'd stuffed up completely. And it was, and I apologize to any of the cameramen that are listening because I was telling them to piss off, get away from me, don't film this. And they said, oh, yeah, but it's part of the show. Go away.
And at this point, he turns around and yells at Nick and he goes, if you'd let me have butter, this wouldn't happen.
I know.
What you get when you ban the dairy.
and I just thought, oh, look, I was so sorry. But one of the producers came over to me and said, oh, look, we were a little bit worried about you because we haven't actually seen you like this before. Well,
you're not letting me have or eggs or anything else that logically goes into a cake.
I'm making cakes and slices without any of the core ingredients.
See what happens when I don't use fat.
Exactly. I mean, I've mentioned before, I attempted that terrine here.
Yeah. Oh my God, those buckwheat pancakes.
The galette. I gave up on the galette. I made it pastry. I made it a pie. It worked. A vegan pie worked, but the galette I spent possibly 3 hours trying to make the galettes properly, and I'm on the phone. I'm messaging people asking them for tips. I'm on the phone. I'll say I was on the phone to Robert, and I'm going, "This galette's not working," and I'm sending photos, and he's like, "Yeah, no, that doesn't look like it's working, does it?" And I'm like, "It's okay. Yeah. It's flavorless. It's flavorless."
Well, that was like. I don't know whether you remember from watching the episode that, when I pulled it out of the tin, the corner ripped off, and I said, oh, that's okay, I'll just glue that back on.
Yeah, no.
With butter.
No, I did, and I did
nothing to glue.
And I did your trick. I was there, and part of it came off, and I'll just glue that back. I can't.
It won't stick.
That won't.
Yeah,
okay, now
I know, there's nothing to stick it with.
No, and that's the problem. It just sort of, it folds, but it doesn't fold, and they break.
Should have made little carrot nails.
Surely you can make normal pancakes out of other stuff other than buckwheat.
Carrot joining.
Yeah.
Kristie's got it sorted. Carrot joinery.
Yeah, just take it up to bakers and shakers. Like shaker furniture.
Yeah.
Just make some carrot joining.
Like
David did brickwork out of baklava. Surely I could do a buckwheat pancake out of something else.
I think it's possible. But
I just don't think there's enough food-based furniture in this world.
No, I want to see that as a showstopper.
I mean, imagine.
Yeah. Try and do this as a technical challenge.
Yeah. You must use your baker's credenza. You must be able to rest at least 5 items on it. You must be able to lose a set of keys down the back of it.
It's going to be the most awesome.
No, don't start with the keys. I remember that episode.
So, of all of the bakes outside of vegan week, because I like removing vegan week because it's a bit of an anomaly.
It's not really baking. Sorry, all the vegan.
Which bake do you sort of look back on and go, I never want to have to attempt that ever again?
Oh, look, I enjoyed most of them, but the other really bad week that I had was, and look, I love biscuit week, but that bloody biscuit box that looked like a sarcophagus without the lid. and look, I had, if you had have seen the photo of the one that I did at home, it was supposed to have airbrush stencils on it. It was, it looked absolutely fantastic. But, I came into the shed and... Sorry?
I said, ready for Tutankhamun just to be lowered into it. I know it was a jewellery box. But,
Exactly. And the thing was that, there were a couple of episodes where I really bit off a little bit more than I could chew. And I think that was one of them because they brought me this brand new airbrush to use. And one of the poor girls from the equipment team, she got it all set up for me. And she was covered in like blue food dye. She looked like a little bit of a Smurf. Her hands were like totally blue because I couldn't. And I use an airbrush at home with my model building and, touch-ups on the cars. So I know how to use one. I think it was just the fact that I tried to make so many pieces of gingerbread for this and I covered it in fondant and it wasn't even supposed to have the bloody flowers on it. That was because when I couldn't get the airbrush to work, I started hand painting them and I thought, oh shit, this looks like crap.
So throw some flowers.
Handmade roses over them. And look, I think that if there was one of the things that I would never want to do again, I think it would probably be that. But I love biscuits. So it wasn't the fact that it was a biscuit. It's just like trying to build a structure out of like soft gingerbread and shit. Oh, could I have said maybe that crafty tart?
Maybe.
What sort of an idea was that?
I mean, there was some interesting concepts. There was some interesting concepts. As you said you did a couple of times make something and then go, might have gone a bit too big with this one. And I mean, we'll come to the cruffin in a minute because that's.
Oh my God!
I'm with you on the cruffin, but we'll come to that in a minute.
Okay.
But my favourite concept that I think you came up with, and it was absolute genius, was the Baklava Coliseum.
Uh-huh.
And your logic behind that, which is if it collapses, I've made the Coliseum.
I know.
Ruin.
And would you believe when I'd finished that and like I don't know whether you got to see sort of like the overhead jib shots and things like that, but I actually had pecans scattered on the bottom so they looked like the lions and the gladiators and I had sort of ground up nuts around the sides so it actually looked like soil and little mini rocks and things. And one of the cameramen came over to me and said, oh my God, I was just there last year and this is exactly what it looks like. And I'm thinking, my job here is done.
But what he didn't tell you was that even though he was a cameraman, he's not very good at making out faces and shapes. So he just thinks everyone is a pecan. Everyone's a pecan. Oh my God,
you won't want to talk about faces. You won't want to talk about faces. I'd be no good playing poker because I'm very emotional. And as I think you said, Chris, that I'm probably... like when I look back at some of these promo shots and some of the vox pops that we had, I'm thinking, oh my God, my expressions on some of these things were a little bit scary because I used to think, I don't remember doing that. And I'm thinking, what are people going to think? Like the week that I won Star Baker, people must have thought I was on drugs. Like, every single shot they saw me, I was laughing and I was killing myself.
It's the weird anomaly. You're seeing yourself on TV. God. Seeing yourself on TV, that's an anomaly. That's weird. And you look back and you're like, did I really do that? Was that me? Did I do that? It's like,
oh my God, like Spice Week when I started doing a little bit of a dance and saying, if you want to be my spicy, oh my God, I'm never going to live that down.
I mean, this is and we talk about this all the time on the podcast. You know, it's Bakeoff for beginners. When you go on to Bakeoff, there's a couple of things. When they say to you, do you think this is your week? Never say yes.
I said yes every week.
Every week. I was about to get there, which is that you broke almost every one of the rules that we have for first-time participants in Bakeoff.
There was one week where I said, well, somebody had to win it, and it might as well be me.
I think you have the record for the number of times in the show in a series of saying, I want to be Star Baker. That's not a bad thing, by the way. But it's something that we always say don't do because they usually keep that bit of footage ready just for when cake falls over.
It's essentially the baking equivalent of donning a red shirt and being the first one to land on a planet after being beamed down by Scotty.
Yep. The rest of the Star Trek crew are out there, and you're the only one in a red shirt, and no one's learnt your name. You are about to die on that planet.
But when you look back, there really wasn't anybody that majorly stuffed up. There was, you know, the quality of the bakers. And like, you know, you can delete this bit if you like, but I used to love watching the Irish Bake-Off. Have you ever watched that one?
I've seen bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, and look, you know, each to their own. And look, I actually thought the quality of our bakers was absolutely amazing.
Yep.
And, you know, I've watched a lot of, and when I was in Paris this year, I actually watched a couple of episodes of the French one.
Yep.
And, you know, I couldn't understand a bloody word they were saying. But that doesn't matter. I because I don't speak French. Like, I just go there and I wing it. You know,
it's the best way to do it.
Just keep pointing at the cake you want and the pastry you want and the cheese you want. And
exactly. And just say, you know, merci or whatever. But the thing is that the quality of the bakers in the shed was such that the fact that you couldn't really hope that somebody stuffed up because there were, you know, we were all really, you know, there was no one that was really mucking up every week to sort of see them go home. And you know, it was such a shame that, you know, people like Zian and Annette and Laura that, you know, they never really got to show what they could do. And they didn't even stuff up.
No, and we've said this before with Australia, and we said this about the grand final episode, that one of the things about Australian Bake-Off in particular is that, and we liked this series a lot because people weren't going home because they were bad or they'd done something bad. They were going home because somebody had
to go home.
And that's the way the competition works. And when Maggie and Matt were doing the whole, this is really difficult, you could see it was genuinely difficult. They weren't sitting there going, oh, this is an easy one, let's pretend. This is hard.
This wasn't MasterChef where they go, I don't know. You know,
you burnt your food, but you didn't put an olive on the side of it. So which one of you is going home? We don't quite know. No, in Australian Bake-Off, it's genuinely a case of it's millimeters, it's bits. It's so much so that, again, when we spoke to Nicole, we even got her to clarify on the show for people. Yeah. Right. So when people get sent home, like especially with this, and she said it's ridiculously tight. Yeah. And like there's a whole process to it that is very thick and it's a very difficult process to go through, and they're very thorough with it.
It is. And look, I don't know whether you realise, I think I might have put it in a post, you know, after I was eliminated, that, you know, I didn't get in the first year that I applied.
Yep.
But even at that point, like when you go to the auditions, you think, they're not going to pick me in a million years.
Look, and that's the most common thing we hear from bakers all the time who've been on Australian.
Yeah.
They're never going to pick me. Look at everyone else.
Yeah. And the first audition that I went to the first year was with David.
Yep.
And the second year that I went on the audition was with Z and David again.
Yep.
And I remember David saying to me, I had a look at your stuff the way that you presented it last year, and he said, and I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but everybody is different, and I looked at his stuff and thought, oh my God, like there's no way they're going to pick me. But I think he was probably doing a little bit of the same thing, because you compare yourself to everybody else, but you're amazing to be able to even get to that point, and then to get past that point and then get into the top 12 to actually get on the show. Like, you're a winner anyway. And and look, you meet Nicole and David and people like Howie.
Yep.
and my audition day, which was really bizarre. I hope I'm not holding you up, but I want to tell you this because this is really funny. Like, this was my audition day where I took in a piece Monté as my sweet audition piece, and a 3-bird pie made out of hot water pastry. Ooh. And I don't know whether you know, but sometimes they have some of the previous contestants at the audition day, and I was starstruck by Claudia. And
Claudia's awesome.
She was at my audition, but the audition was the week before the grand final of their episode of their season. And of course, I walk in with this bloody piece Monté that's like 3 feet tall that I had to take in 3 pieces and put together once I got there. And of course, Claudia was there, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Claudia. And what do they then do? The very next week when it's grand final, what did they have as their showstopper? A piece Monté. And I'm thinking, oh my God, people are going to think I had insider information. I'm taking this one for the audition. But, it really sort of brings it home when you actually get to meet one of them in person, because you find that they're just the same as you. They've got like an amazing passion for baking. But what I really liked within our group of bakers is that no two people were the same. Everybody had their own strengths, and we all did things differently, and like, it was amazing walking around at the end of each bake and actually seeing what, in that short period of time. And this was my thing that I like about baking, is that you can make something out of nothing, and you can make it as simple or as elaborate as you like, but you're actually being creative. And that was the thing that I found in the shed, that everybody had sort of like their own strengths, if that makes sense.
I don't think we've seen, in terms of Bakeoff, I don't think we've seen people approach the same bake in a completely different way as much as in this year.
Yeah.
Oh God, prosciutto and gorgonzola.
But also nobody's stuck to like the same thing every week.
No.
Which is a trap that occasionally happens in the shows, where people get into a groove and they make similar things. Nobody really got stuck in that groove. Everyone tried something. I mean, I said, look, Sonny, like, saw you do in the semi-final, and then goes, Don, I'll give that a go in the final. Like, it's this idea of never settle. Like, always push each other. And everyone we've spoken to in previous series has said the same thing. It's, you get amongst this group of bakers and you just want to create. And everyone wants to create, and everyone gives each other inspiration and ideas and pushes it.
See, I just had this idea, right, that in this world that is, facing a climate catastrophe, and, leaders that have just gone to Hawaii and missing all this stuff that's going on, we really need a Bakeoff shed to bring people together to solve the world's problems, We just need...
Exactly. And if they need like a UNICEF version of Bakeoff, where we get a baker from each country and we do like an international version, Jesus, I'm there.
Well, I mean, as I said, we've got the competition side sorted, obviously, with our Commonwealth Games concept.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of a UNICEF or a United Nations of Bakeoff as a peace organisation. So let me get this straight. We've now got sport, an international sport and competition, covered with the Commonwealth.
Yep.
And now, peace and world harmony.
Yes.
With the United Nations Bakeoff.
Absolutely.
I like this idea.
It's like we'll get with the baker from Togo.
We don't,
come to the bench 6.
We don't need Maggie, though, picking the technicals.
No.
Because we don't want anybody to have a nervous breakdown trying to do Arlettes while we're trying to recover the ball.
So
let's get on to Arlettes.
Let's talk about Arlettes.
How have you baked since you've left the shed?
He's a fiend. He can't stop.
All Arlettes all the time after killing whoever invented Arlettes.
And apparently there's some rumour around that I'm in Paris giving Dennis the directions to Mr. and Mrs. Arlette.
I don't know who started.
I'd like to, and hopefully when we get to talk to Dennis, we can ask him if he ever hunted down Mr. Arlette and managed to deal with it like he promised on the show. Because they were, look, I love Maggie dearly, but what the hell? They were painful.
But I have to say, who the fuck first invented baking a cake in wax? Like,
well, I know, but having said that, I've now bought 8 of the cannelé molds.
Oh my God, that's right. I'm getting Arlettes and cannelés confused.
But the
one with the beeswax. And like, have they had cannelés? And they would all say yes. Because I bake cannelés an awful lot now, and I take them to work, and I just wish I had have actually made them prior to the show in the copper molds, because mine were a little bit darker. But actually, having said that, when you actually looked at Matt's when they were in the potting shed, his were quite dark as well. But I think the reason why I didn't do so well is that I probably just poured the beeswax in there and didn't drain it out again.
Yeah, well, that was weird too, because everyone was like, "How much wax? What do I do? How much wax? What do I do?"
Yeah,
and that was fun. It was like, again, with the technicals this year, there were some. I mean, the cannelés were fun and interesting. The Arlettes obviously were something else entirely. And let's talk about the cruffin.
I just had to look up what Arlettes were again.
Which bit?
Now,
I probably used enough to make a gorgonzola gnocchi for a family of 12.
So, again, Don, what I want to actually go through with you on this is, I'm going to defend you. I'm going to stand behind you here and go, you were right, because they suggested that there was too much gorgonzola and too much prosciutto.
Oh, please.
I refuse to acknowledge
that. Red meat and there was not enough prosciutto.
There is no such thing.
Whereas I'm going to put to you on, like, why weren't you thinking, if I don't use it all, I will have things to nibble on while things are baking? Like, just a side dish of prosciutto and gorgonzola, just to nibble on.
Kristie's a tactical thinker.
I am.
Well, yeah, but hang on a minute. How do you know that I didn't eat it anyway? I could have been sort of like kneeling down behind the bench and just taking a mouthful of prosciutto. When I say I didn't want any left over, I didn't want any left on the bench.
Well, sorry everyone for that slight technical glitch. We've got Don back now on the phone. Now, as I was saying, Don, with the obviously the gorgonzola and the prosciutto, one, there's no such thing as too much. And secondly, when it comes to eating the extras, you had the ability to go to put all yours in and go and eat Angela's because, like, she's a vegan.
Oh, I know. I could have actually gone on the street corner and sold it all, because if I had collected, Angela's prosciutto, because I don't eat actually red meat either, but that wouldn't have stopped me. I could have just gone and nicked it.
Just start your own deli, Don's Deli. Don's Corner Deli.
Either that, or I just could have put it in everybody else's, so they used as much as I did.
Sabotage. I like it.
Sabotage.
More sabotage should be done with prosciutto. Like, could you imagine Singapore Harbour with prosciutto instead of,
Acting it out. That's brilliant.
Care? Did I miss something in the translation?
No.
Miss Prosciutto?
No, Kristie's just going way back into history.
Chrissy's going rogue.
I'm going rogue. World War II, Singapore Harbour.
So...
Oh my God.
So the love... What I have to ask you about is... I have to ask you about your love of France. So what inspired this love of France and French baking?
I think you find it's called Le French.
Le French, sorry.
Le Francais.
Le French.
Yeah,
Well,
not Le Francais, Le French.
Le French.
Clearly.
Well, the funny thing is that the first time I went there, which was when I was in my early 20s, I was traveling around Europe for about 3 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hated the bloody place. Jeez. Because I arrived there, and what I'd been doing is I'd gone from Venice all the way around, and I was heading up to Stockholm, and I stopped in Paris, and I thought, well, I have to probably do a couple of the touristy things. And it was pissing down with rain. You wouldn't believe it. And so I put my bag in the luggage locker at the train station, and I thought, well, I'll go to the Louvre, I'll go to the Eiffel Tower. And it was so wet, I was sitting in a bus stop on the side of the road, and I heard this hell of a bang. And what it was a police motorbike hit a car, and I saw the motorbike coming towards me, and I jumped out of the bus shelter, and it was actually the police motorbike ended up where I was sitting.
Oh my God.
If that's not a bloody omen, to get out of the place. And look, when you get a little bit older, you sort of tend to look at things differently. And the next time I went back, because I was probably a little bit more interested in food and culture and all of those sorts of things, you're looking for things through different eyes, I suppose.
Yeah.
And not a lot of glasses. It's just, as you get a little bit older, hopefully you're a little bit more romantic and things like that. And look, when I went back the next time, it was so strange. I've always been interested in fashion as well.
Yep.
Although some of the European stuff is a little out there, let me tell you. But when I went back the next time, and then the next time, and then the next time, and now, I just really find, and it's amazing. You can go there as many times as you like, and you will always find something else that you haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to explain. It is supposed to be the city of love. It's got lots of culture, lots of history. And I actually told some of my work friends the time before last, because I'd actually stayed over to the Bastille the trip before the last one. And let me just tell you, this room had character. It had paint peeling off the walls. you open the window and you're supposed to have like a city view, and all you're looking is onto the roof of the building next door where somebody has thrown rubbish out onto it. Having said that, you sit in your room, you have a glass of wine, you have some French bread, and the smell of the fresh bread, the patisseries, and it's just this funny thing that's really just hard to describe unless you're actually there.
Yeah.
And I love it.
So I presume that, since that first incident of having a motorcycle just throw itself at you, that no other vehicular kind of accidents have occurred while in France. Like, it's been a lot more kind to you since then.
Fast Uber drive.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because you were talking about that idea of you've got to be there and you've got to experience it. I mean, I've had friends of mine who have been over to Paris. I split right down the middle.
Yeah.
Some of them, they either absolutely adore the place or they could not wait to leave.
See, I'm worried because, thin friends that go say they have a wonderful time, but fat friends that go to France say that they have a shit time. And I'm kind of like, as a fat person, I'm kind of like, I really want to go for the food, but I don't want to be, fat-shamed while I'm there. It's just...
And
but look, I don't think there's anything in between. I think it's either a fantastic, unforgettable time, or it's crap. Seriously.
Well, the Japanese had such a thing with France and such they're so enamored with France that the Japanese consulate actually has a 24-hour hotline to deal with Japanese people that go to Paris and find it shit. And that's not a joke. There is a genuine 24-hour part of the Japanese consulate in Paris that deals with homesick tourists from Japan who get there and go, this is horrible.
But I guess it's like anything when you have high expectations of it and you have like an idealized version. If it doesn't...
Look,
yeah.
And look, I can relate to that because I've been to Japan as well. And like, I'm a clean freak.
Yep.
It's funny. I'm very careful when I go away. I don't generally tend to go and eat somewhere unless I am really comfortable with it.
Yep.
And like, I've been to Japan. They're such beautiful people. It's so clean. They're so polite. And I can see why that may not relate to Paris necessarily.
Yeah, it's not exactly what you call
European disorganisation.
Not the Paris vibe.
Don't get me wrong. Like, I in this last trip that I went to Paris, one of the things that was a highlight for me is because I managed to secure myself a VIP pass to an event which is the Paris Fashion at the Eiffel Tower.
Ooh.
And like a half an hour before I was about to leave the hotel in my best outfit, looking forward to this, so excited.
Thongs and trackies, I presume?
They said, they said because we got protesters pouring toxic waste over themselves in front of the Eiffel Tower. And so they then, I'm sure the French people use clocks the same as everybody else, but maybe on French time. and like, if you're in Japan and you go to hop on the bullet train, like, you can count the seconds
you better be
before it departs. And so look, and my goddaughters are Japanese, and it's different cultures, and sometimes I can relate to the fact that if somebody was there and they weren't used to the more relaxed, sort of like romantic atmosphere of Paris where you just go with the flow, it may not sort of work.
See, I had a bit of trouble when I was in Brisbane for the first time using public transport. It's the first time as an adult.
Yes.
And, not in the backseat of mum and dad's car. I was in Brisbane and I had to jump on a train to get down to the Gold Coast. And something I didn't realise is that in Brisbane, I hope this is right, the train leaves at the time it's scheduled to. So if it's saying 12:20,
mostly, yes,
it will leave at 12:20. It's not that it arrives at 12:20, it's that the doors have closed and it's fucking off.
Yes.
And as a miscellaneous city sider, you're not used to that, because on-time running, of course, in miscellaneous city is officially anywhere within half an hour.
We've just in...
That's actually in the document.
Don't forget, I live in Melbourne. Every month I'm waiting for the billboard for the public transport system to let us know whether they actually made it to 90% reliability and 95% punctuality.
We don't even care anymore.
Some type of compensation.
We don't even care anymore. Look,
our miscellaneous premier has a state premier. Unveiled our new light rail system that took 20 minutes longer than the bus system.
It was worse than that. You could actually have walked the distance from the light rail and got there 40 minutes beforehand. They were measuring it on the weekend because they did the first big run, and they all broke down, and no one knew what to do. And so you could literally have walked alongside the tracks where these light rail cars were just sitting and been faster into the city.
The monorail was more reliable.
One question?
Yeah.
This has been, I've been amazed at this ever since I've been listening to your podcast, but Why do you call it Miscellaneous City?
Okay, so let's explain Miscellaneous City.
Because we know that people who live in Melbourne do not like
Miscellaneous
City.
No, the actual
and they're apt to just
the actual reason for referring to it as Miscellaneous City, and I mean, look, let's face it, it's Sydney. But the reason we call it Miscellaneous City consistently is because we've had so many people tell us we're in this state or this state or this state. I've had people tell me, even after I've told them where we are, consistently think I'm in Melbourne. I've had people consistently think I'm in Brisbane. I've had people consistently think I'm in Perth. I've been told we're based out of Adelaide a few times.
Oh, that'd be great.
Really?
So, like, everyone gets it wrong. So
not
it's
Darwin.
Not
I think
Darwin.
it's because they know you're a redhead.
Oh, yeah, I'm a pale redhead. I'm not living in Darwin. But
well, you could go over to WA and make out your Robert's brother.
Well, he is my brother from another mother, and
They really are the twins of
when we do hang out,
when
we do hang out, it does look like we're in the movie Twins.
I want to get you both matching
so
khaki suits now.
Which one of you is short and which one's tall?
Robert's about 50 foot tall. At the grand final, we sort of mentioned this the other day, but at the grand final, before we all did the walk down the hill to come down and sort of see everybody, and I don't know where you were in the pack because I couldn't see him in the pack, but we could see Robert.
Oh, well.
So we were there,
at the front.
And there was the big sort of, we were trying to find Robert. Robert turned up late because he flew Tiger, because that's his fault. I told him not to. So when he got there, he turned up and he was at the back of the... No, we're already $12, so they never leave. He was at the back of the thing. I'm at the front, and it was like this long-lost sort of reunion thing where I'm like, Robert!
Oh, so like not the Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music where you were carrying a basket and he was just running up to you with his arms open.
No, everyone was standing in the pack ready to go down the hill, and he was at the very back of it. And so there's this very tall redhead, sort of very politely, because it's Robert, so he's so polite, going, excuse me, sorry, excuse me, excuse me, sorry, excuse me, sort of bumping people out of the way to get to us so we can walk down the hill. So
hand in hand, skipping down the hill.
Oh yeah, picking daisies off the side of the road.
You're like, I've lost my husband now, and I wasn't seen for another 4 days because Robert and myself just went around.
The romance is real. I know. I saw you at karaoke.
Excuse me. Why didn't you come and introduce yourselves to me? Because I was there, and
you guys were a bit busy.
Sort of, like working the room.
You guys were a bit busy.
It was. We. It's like one of those things. Like when we went to Robert's grand final,
we didn't say hello to Robert.
We didn't say hello to Robert. And I kept wondering who this tall redhead was that they kept putting in front of me when I was trying to watch the bloody stuff going on in the shed.
The reason
you stand right in the front of there.
Yeah, well, the reason that we didn't do it, and we can talk about this. The reason we didn't do it is because it's not. We haven't seen any of the series yet, and at this point, it's not our grand final. It's not our series. And it's really the bakers from that series moment to just
enjoy each other,
be in each other's company. And so, like with Robert's grand final, we were there with Olivia and Fiona and all of the group from that series, and Jeremy and all that, and Monica. And then with your series, we were there with Robert and all of that.
So if patterns continue, maybe we'll be hanging out
next time, 100%.
Maybe in 60 years' time or whenever it comes.
They're doing the auditions again. I'm looking
Cast of Sugar,
and it will actually mean something different now, because when I'll be now watching the next season, know what they're going through, because you've done it, and I'm so looking forward to actually going to the garden party and watching the next one, because it'll be sort of like a little bit surreal as well.
You've come out the other side of it, and you've got that experience
through it.
Like I know how you feel, Don. I was on Romper Room and Idiot. And every time...
I had heard that you'd been on Romper Room.
I know. It's a little known fact. But, any time I see kids on TV, I'm like, I know what it's like, Like, it's a bit of a... It's a bit overwhelming, but it's
Excuse me, your most recent television appearance was Dancing with Marcus.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, my God. Like, that why I didn't do any dance moves in the shed is because I thought, oh my God, they'll compare me with Marcus.
No one
and
needs
then they'll force you into like a dance battle.
Dance off, and you don't need a dance battle.
Can I tell you something which was, and it's something that I'll remember for a very long time, and it's to do with Marcus, but when I had my audition day, but it's a similar thing because it's a talent, and you know, I couldn't believe the way that he was dancing around, and I thought, oh my God, you know, he's got some great moves. But on my audition day, you know, we're all there baking in the kitchen, and you're sort of, you know, baking away, and Z started to sing New York State of Mind, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't know whether to sort of like cry or not, because I can cry at the bottom. I'm very emotional, but I thought, oh no, I can't sort of cry into my orange cake. But it was such an amazing thing that you're only seeing a little bit of each of the bakers.
Yeah.
You know, because we've all got our own lives. We all do different things, and you know, you're only getting like a glimpse of this person, and you know, that is a memory of Z singing will stay with me for a very long time, because it was just one of those things that it seemed natural, it lightened up the shed, and unfortunately we didn't get to see that in the actual shed itself, because unfortunately, you know, she wasn't there
now
for long.
This makes me want to have, you know how at the beginning of like American Idol and like X Factor and stuff, is that they have kind of like the big kind of group that goes in to finalise who'll be the top 12 or whatever. We need that. How cool would that be?
See,
a Big Brother thing, so it's 24/7.
I was going to say,
filming them in the shed.
I was going to say,
under stress. This is Big Bakeoff. It's
see,
Maggie.
See, what I was going to say was though, was at the end of that beautiful story that Don was telling was, and then what you didn't see was Dan just came juggling through the shed, because like then there's all these other talents coming out. So you've got juggling, then you've got a magic show, you know, like
yeah, I know.
Sonny is suddenly making people disappear in a cabinet, and it's.
Grabbing another baker and popping them into and sawing them in half.
Putting all the batter in the bowl, covering the bowl, opening the bowl. Cake is done.
You know, with Jessica Tandy and fried green tomatoes at Mrs. Stop Cafe. The secret is in the sauce.
So before we finish up, just sort of one other sort of question, which is, of everything you made, we've talked about what the thing was that you probably would never want to do again, and we've mentioned clearly that it's Mr. Arlett's fault. But what was your favourite thing you made in there?
The favourite thing. Look, I really loved the like, it was such a weird concept again. You know, how did I come up with these ideas? But the botanical cake, which, you know, just so happens to be the week that I won Star Baker.
If someone has to.
But, you know, to me that, because as I mentioned before, I'd been to Japan and I love Japan, and that cake was a little bit special to me because it was, you know, the cherry blossoms and things like that. Even though it was so probably beautiful. Your cake that you wouldn't have actually chosen, because it had that magic matcha.
Look, I thought it was beautiful, Don. Don't listen to him.
I'm ignoring that, Don. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen.
Okay, pretend it was just some like green
food dye.
It was
pistachio creme pack.
Done. Pistachio. It was like the grand final where I saw green, thought it might be matcha. It was pistachio, and I'm like, whew.
Exactly. And look, I think that was probably the favourite thing that I actually made, because it was probably the closest that I ever came to actually delivering what I said I was actually going to make. Because, you know, you say at the start of it that this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And, you know, often you have to change your tact halfway through because you're running out of time or whatever. But I actually said at the start that I was going to make 100 cherry blossoms and I was going to make this cake, and I actually made an extra layer than we needed to, because they did say that we only needed to make 2, but I actually made 3.
Yeah.
And it actually just seemed to be the bake that I sort of enjoyed the most because everything seemed to go right.
Which is what you want. Ideally.
Exactly. Yeah, and like Matt loved my pure white buttercream. You know, the chiffon cakes, like, even when I practiced them before, they were huge. They were like massive. They had lots of height. So I think that was probably, and if I could just like tell you one very quick thing.
Of course.
That there was a particular shop that I used to go to on my days off in Sydney to look at, you know, baking dishes and, you know, things like this. The week that I won Star Baker, it was so bizarre with the cherry blossom cake. I actually went to the shop and I was actually looking for like a baking tray to use the following week. And they had this beautiful porcelain teapot, cups and saucers and milk jug and sugar bowl. And I'd been there every week before that because we got, you know, the couple of days off and I'd been there every single week and I had not seen this before. And on the week that I won Star Baker with the cherry blossom cake, I saw this teapot and cups and saucers, which was a very deco design, and it actually had cherry blossoms all over it. And I thought, if that's not an omen, the fact that I needed to buy more shit for my house. but it was just those things that I've now got that memory that was the bake that actually did it for me, that I enjoyed the most because I didn't have anything that went wrong. And in the shed, when you're under time pressure and you're competing against other people, and look, at the end of the day, it is a competition. You don't want to really class yourself as competing, but you are, in effect, because, you know, nobody would go into the shed thinking that they really don't want to win.
No, it does seem like a weird way to go into it.
I'm just here to lose. I really want to keep a crap cake and just embarrass myself, really.
Yeah, exactly. And look, when I look back at myself, I was, you know, maybe not when I arrived, because I think the very first week I stuffed myself up completely so many times that I almost went home. But after that, I thought, well, really, you know, what am I here for? I'm here to have fun. And, you know, I think that that's one of the things that, if nothing else, that I showed that even though things may not have always gone right all the time, I was still there to have a bit of a laugh and just sort of muck around and really sort of like fluff my way each week, you know, and try and survive.
And that's something that I think everyone in the audience attached to. It's something we definitely attached to, and it's one of the reasons why we had so many people going, "Can you get Don on the podcast? Can you get Don on the podcast?"
And that was just me.
And that was just Kristie going, "Can we speak to Don? Can we speak to Don?"
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Don.
If I can just say one other thing, like I've had lots of supporters and lots of lovely comments, and you know, even on the week that I just did blue shoe nuts, even that week, you know, people didn't think I was an absolute idiot while I was doing blue things. But you know, thank you for everybody that gave me really, really wonderful support, and you know, it sort of really, because I have confidence issues, and it really helped me along the way. And when I was looking back at myself and thinking that you know, I sort of could do this, and it was fun, and it was such a great experience. And if I could just say one more thing, that if anybody is thinking of doing it, just apply and do it, because you won't regret it for a minute. No,
and as you can see from Don's experience there, you're going to have an absolutely amazing time. We have had an amazing time watching you.
I have had so much fun talking to you guys.
It's been brilliant.
Just call me Don Waffler.
Not at all.
No,
not at all.
It's been lovely listening to your stories.
And this is, as we say to people frequently, an audio medium. It helps to talk. Yes. So that is a really important. That is a really important part.
Just tell me your problems, young man.
So anyway, when I was we haven't got time for this now. Thank you very much,
Dr. Crane.
Thank you very much, Don, for coming on. It has been an absolute joy and delight.
Lovely to talk to you both. And I'm glad you're standing better.
Aren't we all? So until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we'll catch you all later.
Out Don's apron.